What's going on, everybody? It's been a while. I'm back. We finally cleared medical. A sigh of relief. I know I've been getting a lot of messages about what's the status, what's the update. And to be perfectly honest, I didn't have any updates. I tried to reach out. I tried to do a bunch of different things. And I just kept running into the same things. One person says one thing, another person says another. So really what I relied on was my candidate portal. The candidate portal is where you can go once you've started the process, and you can see every step that you've cleared. And the two steps that have been just nagging me since May have been medical. Your medical is under review, and then the background investigation. Your background investigation is underway. So I just happen to be looking, and I check daily. I check 2-3 times a day, just because you never know. And I happen to check today, and it says you meet the medical qualifications, or something along the line, or you have been medically cleared. And I gotta tell you, at first I thought I was gonna just be like, whoa, it's about time. But in reality, it's complete opposite. I was like, thank goodness I finally completed medical. Medical is done. Medical is done. So we got one more step. That's the background investigation. It's still ongoing. I did send a message to the case manager or the caseworker, and I just inquired, like, hey, I'm just trying to get an update on the status of what's going on. I know that you can't give me a actual factual no later than date, but can I at least find out where it's at? Is it in final adjudication? Is it still being reviewed? Like, whatever the case may be. And then I actually went to a resource today that was very, very good. I went to the honorfirst.com website, and I don't remember specifically how I found it. I found the website. I mean, that's easy. You just honorfirst.com Border Patrol. Basically, I typed in Border Patrol hiring process, and I think it popped up in Google. That's how I first found it, and I've linked it in a lot of my videos. But this specific area that I found went into key specific details about the hiring or the background investigation process, and it is very detailed. I didn't know. Here's an FYI for y'all. This is one key thing that I found was very important to know. If you're wondering why it can take up to a year, the CFR, I don't know the exact publication, I'd have to go back and look, but the CFR states that it is mandatory for the CBP to publish a decision no later than 180 days from the time of essentially the final initiation of the investigation. However, they can amend that investigation process or something along those lines. Basically, they can do an amendment that gives them another 180 days up to 365 days. So that's why it can take up to a year, because in the reality, if they're investigating somebody and they need more information, they can get an amendment that can give them more time. Now, will they use that full year? Maybe, maybe not. But I found that very interesting, and that really gave me the answer that I needed as to how long it could potentially take. So I'm looking at it like this. I would be happy if I got some type of decision in the next 30 to 60 days. I'm banking on it probably not here. Like, what I really think is maybe they're waiting for budgeting to get passed on the next fiscal year, because that's how the Department of Defense was. So Department of Homeland Security, I would venture to say it might be similar. So if they're waiting on budgeting, then perhaps they're waiting to render decisions for new candidates to come in. So the other thing that I noticed is I read something along the lines that stated, so that's the first thing I think. So I think I'd be lucky if I hear anything in September, October. But realistically, I'm giving myself till the beginning of the year, the next year, probably January, before I hear anything else, because maybe they're going physical year. But another thing that I found interesting was that sometimes if they render a decision for you, you might not get a school date until they've gotten enough people through to be able to send them through to the TSU to then be able to schedule for a class. So perhaps that's why mine has been kicked back a few times, because they're like, we got a little bit of time. We don't have the numbers yet for the classes. So, maybe there was things that they needed to verify. Maybe they want to take up to a year. Maybe it's due to budgeting. I honestly just don't know. I wish that there was somebody I could talk to just ask, like, hey, what is the holdup? Like, I'm not asking for the specifics of my background investigation, but at least give me some understanding so I got some clarity. But regardless of that, I'm in it for the long haul, because I've passed every step except background investigation up to this point. And I did talk to a recruiter, and I'll give more clarity on this, but the one thing that they did say is you passed polygraph, so you're on a good track. You're on a good pace. You're moving in the right direction. So that to me was really good. So to give you a little bit of background, about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks. About 2 weeks ago, I was fed up. I was absolutely fed up. I was getting a lot of people messaging me like, hey, where are you at in the process? What's the status? What's going on? And I couldn't take it no more. So I reached out to my medical caseworker and I asked, hey, can you give me an idea of, just wanted to see if I get an update. And they stated, hey, it looks like it's being reviewed by the medical officer. Usually it's a first come, first serve kind of thing. So they review them in the order received. So it may be a couple more weeks. I was like, okay, but prior to that, so I called them first, but then I called the number that I thought was my overall caseworker, but it turns out I think that was my equip caseworker. And what they stated was, what it looks like is everything is cleared up to this point. You're just waiting on a phone call from the TSU to schedule you. So at that point, I kind of got my hopes up. I was like, wait a minute, you're telling me I'm like, but I wasn't sure, because I'm like, hold on, I haven't heard anything from medical. This is what this person's telling me. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I didn't want to get my hopes up. So then I called, my medical caseworker calls back and they said, hey, your medical, that's when she told me, your medical still has to be reviewed by the medical officer. So it might be a couple weeks. I know it sucks to wait, but that's unfortunately like all it is. And I was like, okay, thank you. So I waited a little bit, and I think I called the next day. I called back to the main hiring center. All right, I think I called in the afternoon. And I said, hey, I'm getting conflicting information. I wanted to see if maybe you can help me out. What is the status? And they said, what it looks like is you're waiting on an answer for your medical and for your background investigation. But once your background clears, it'll go to final adjudication, or it looks like it's in final adjudication, so it may be reviewed. Now here's where the wind completely came out of my sails. Hold a pin in that thought. I called a recruiter that I knew, that I had been talking to. And I said, hey, is there any way you can pull up my information and just let me know? Because I'm getting conflicting information. And he kind of said the same thing. He said, your medical hasn't cleared and your background investigation hasn't cleared. I said, okay. So that's what I took as a grain of salt. I still kind of thought maybe my background investigation is in final adjudication though, because he's kind of saying the same thing, it sounds like, and that's what the other person at the hiring center said. Where the wind came completely out of my sails was when a buddy of mine called me and said, hey, I just got a phone call about your background investigation. I guess they want to do an interview. And I was just like, oh, what? And like, we didn't go into specifics or anything. He just said, I didn't know what it was about. I said, it's for Border Patrol. He's like, oh, okay, then I'll keep you posted. And then that was about it. But in any case, I just felt defeated at that point, because on one hand, I thought that it was in final adjudication, and I thought I was good to go. And I was getting conflicting information about medical, so I didn't know what to believe. So I just really looked at the candidate dashboard, and I just used that. But up to that point, this was a couple weeks ago. For like the last 2 weeks, this is why I haven't responded really to anybody, because I just was frustrated. I was really, really frustrated. I'm going on 9 months now, and there's a part of me that does not want to wait till January. I absolutely do not. I do not. I want a decision like as soon as possible, so I can get my school date, so I can get this thing on the road. I mean, look, I got my Border Patrol green on. Yeah, it says Army, but like I'm ready to go. And I got people that have messaged me, hey, I got a school date already. There's other people that are in the process, like I finished everything, I'm just waiting on these final 2 things. And so it can be defeating to your self-esteem. But like I told my wife, I said, it isn't like there's something that I didn't do. If that was the case, then I would feel a little bit like I failed somewhere. But I've done everything up to this point that I can do. And now the ball is in their court. Like I don't control how fast or slow they move. The good thing about the Honor First website is they said something along the lines where it was like, it really depends on how capable the investigators are. Are they the type of people that are just going to put the file on their desk and you're not get to it for a couple weeks? Are they going to action it really fast? And if it goes to final adjudication, that's like phase 3. Does it get back to phase 2? The reviewer, they want them to look at something else, or does it go all the way back down to phase 1? Sometimes they just call you directly to get some clarification on something. And if it goes back and it needs a revision, do they get tired of waiting, so they move on to the next person? So by the time it gets back to them, there's like 20 people ahead of you, so now you're waiting again. Like that's the nature of the beast that we're dealing with. And it just, to me, is really, really frustrating, because I would assume that, yes, it is a first come, first serve basis, right? But there should be people that, like, if I'm in a meeting, like this is how it was in the military, right? If I'm a schools NCO and I got schools packets, and there's a guy that's 120 days out, right? Not worried about him. He's still got plenty of days. 90 days, this guy's probably not in the red, he's probably still in the green. Like, we're good, his packet's fine. This guy that's 60 days out, he's in the yellow. Like, okay, do we got everything? Does he got his packing list? Does he got his travel information? Is everything set up? And then the guy that's 30 days out, hey, he's in the red. Like, what are we missing for this guy? We need to get on it ASAP. So it's first come, first serve, but it is an order of precedence. So when you have people like me that applied to 23-4, okay, 23-4, and it's the veteran announcement, already that I'm gonna have a longer track record to review. And you would think that, okay, it's been 9 months at this point, January to September. That's like 9 months, long enough to have a Border Patrol baby. Like it should be, hey, he's amber status. We got to get this guy going. What's the status? But when all you hear is it's first come, first serve, you just got to be patient. Like that's what's disheartening, right? But like I said, I've done everything that I can do. I can't do anything else except reach out to the points of contact that I can find. And I think that is a valid thing to do. I think that if there's an email for the hiring center, if there's a phone number to OPR, which is the Office of Personnel Responsibility, I think that's what it is, who handles the background investigations, I should be able to reach out to them. I should be able to call my case manager and be like, hey, what's the status? What's the holdup? Instead of it just, you got to be in the dark. You don't know. Like, I'm not telling you to tell me what is the issue. I just want to know can you give me an idea of how much longer I might have to wait? Is it gonna be 30 days? Is it gonna be 60 days? You know, is there a hang up? Like, they have my number directly. Like, you know, there's a lot I could unpack there, but I won't. I'm gonna wait. I owe all of y'all an after hiring process, after actions review, an AAR. Okay, like once I know I'm headed to the academy, I'm gonna give you an after actions review. What works well, what needs improvement. Because in my mind, I will say this: if we need agents, what is the rate in which we're actually getting people in? That's what I'd like to know. And what is the attrition rate of people within the hiring process? So in other words, how many people at certain benchmarks just completely fall off? Because in my mind, that's the reason why there's such a small percentage. It isn't really the people that are just disqualified. I think that is a part of it, obviously. But I think a bigger part of it is the people that just fall off of the process because they're tired of waiting, you know, and that's fair. That's absolutely fair. But again, I'm not going to dive too deep into that because I want to wait until I've completed my process. But I can finally say, medical is complete.